I stood in my kitchen doorway watching my 16-year-old stepdaughter, Emma, and 14-year-old stepson, Tyler, sprawled across my leather couch controllers and hand homework, abandoned on the coffee table. When I reminded them about our one household rule about finishing assignments before gaming, Emma looked up with cold eyes and said something that shattered my world. "We only answer to our biological parents. You have no real authority over us." Tyler smirked and added, "Yeah, you're not our actual mom." 3 years of love sacrifice and thousands of dollars spent trying to win their hearts, and this was my reward. Something inside me snapped. For 3 years, I had poured my heart and soul into loving David's children as my own. When David and I married, I knew blending families would be challenging, but I never imagined the depth of calculation I was about to uncover. After their mother, Patricia's bitter divorce from David, I had made it my mission to create a stable, loving home where Emma and Tyler could heal and thrive. I had bent over backwards to win their affection. Every week, I drove Emma to her private tutoring sessions, paying $200 weekly to help her maintain her honor roll status. I had bought Tyler the latest gaming equipment he desperately wanted, spending over $800 on his PlayStation setup. Emma's closet was filled with designer clothes I had carefully selected during our shopping trips, trying to bond over fashion and teenage interests. When Emma turned 16, I surprised her with a brand new Honda Civic, complete with a bow in the driveway and comprehensive insurance coverage that cost me $300 monthly. Their rooms were decorated exactly as they had requested, with expensive furniture and personalized touches that reflected their individual personalities. I had enrolled Tyler in advanced soccer camp last summer, driving him to practices an hour away 3 times weekly. Emma's photography hobby was supported with professional equipment and darkroom supplies I had installed in our basement. Every birthday party, every school event, every milestone celebration was meticulously planned and generously funded by my marketing director's salary. But that evening, after their cruel declaration of independence from my authority, I discovered the devastating truth. While cleaning Emma's room, I noticed her journal lying open on her desk. The page that caught my eye contained my name, written in angry letters across the top. Curiosity overwhelmed me as I read the entry dated just 2 weeks prior. Step 2 of Operation Stepmother is working perfectly. Tyler and I agreed that making Suzanne understand she's not our real parent is essential for maintaining our independence. Mom says we need to establish clear boundaries so Suzanne doesn't get too comfortable thinking she can boss us around. The goal is to make her feel like an outsider while still benefiting from her generosity. She's so desperate to be liked that she'll keep buying us stuff even when we're mean to her. My hands trembled as I flipped through previous entries. Page after page revealed months of calculated manipulation. Emma had documented every kind gesture I made, every expensive gift I purchased, every emotional moment when I tried to connect with them all while strategizing how to maintain distance and control. She had written detailed observations about my reactions to their behavior, noting which approaches made me try harder and which ones made me back down. Suzanne bought me the new iPhone today after I mentioned mine was slow. She looked so hopeful when I said thank you. I almost felt bad, but Mom reminded me that accepting gifts doesn't mean accepting authority. Tyler thinks I should be nicer, but I told him we can't let our guard down. The minute we start treating her like a real parent, she'll expect real parent respect. Another entry from 3 months ago made my stomach drop. Had a long phone call with Mom tonight. She gave me some excellent advice about managing the Suzanne situation. Mom says the key is making sure Suzanne understands her place in our family hierarchy. We can be polite and accept her financial support, but never let her forget she's not our actual mother. Mom thinks if we play this right, we can have the best of both worlds, her money and our freedom. The journal revealed that Patricia had been coaching them through every interaction, every conflict, every manipulative strategy designed to undermine my role while maximizing my financial contributions. Emma had transcribed direct quotes from their mother: "Never call her mom or any variation. Always refer to your real parents when discussing important matters. Make sure she knows her place." Phone records I discovered later confirmed constant communication between the children and their mother with Patricia, providing detailed instructions on how to psychologically manage me. I photographed every relevant page with my phone, my heart breaking, as I documented the evidence of their collaborative deception. Tyler's participation was equally calculated. Emma had written about their planning sessions where they divided responsibilities for different manipulation tactics. Tyler was assigned to play the quiet, sullen role while Emma handled direct confrontation. They had agreed on specific phrases designed to remind me of my outsider status. "That's not how we do things in our real family," and "We need to ask our actual parents about that." The most devastating discovery came in Emma's most recent entries, where she described their group chat with Patricia, called Managing Suzanne. Screenshots showed their mother actively encouraging their disrespectful behavior while laughing at my attempts to create family traditions. Patricia had written, "Keep accepting her money, but never let her think it buys her parental rights. She's convenient, but not family." As I closed the journal and put it back exactly as I found it, I realized I had been living in a carefully constructed illusion. Every family dinner I had cooked, every homework session I had supervised, every emotional conversation where I thought we were growing closer had been nothing more than performance art designed to keep their free ride comfortable while keeping me firmly in my place. That night, I lay in bed next to David, who was blissfully unaware of the psychological warfare being conducted under our roof. I stared at the ceiling and made a decision that would change everything. The time for hoping and trying and giving had come to an end. It was time to discover just how deep this deception went. The next morning, after David left for his business conference in Chicago and the children departed for school, I embarked on a financial investigation that would reveal the stunning scope of the conspiracy against me. Armed with the knowledge of their calculated manipulation, I needed to understand exactly how much money I'd been unknowingly contributing to my own emotional destruction. I started with our joint banking account, something I had trusted David to manage while I focused on being the generous stepmother. What I discovered made me physically ill. For the past 3 years, I had been covering 90% of Emma and Tyler's expenses while their biological parents contributed virtually nothing. David had been receiving a measly $400 monthly in child support from Patricia, yet I had been paying for private tutoring, car insurance, clothing, electronics, extracurricular activities, and countless other expenses that totaled over $3,000 each month. But the discovery that shattered my remaining trust came when I found hidden court documents in David's home office filing cabinet. While searching for our insurance papers, I stumbled upon divorce decree modifications and financial statements that David had never shared with me. According to these official documents, Patricia earned $120,000 annually as a pharmaceutical sales manager for a major company. Her salary was significantly higher than my own marketing director position, yet she had been claiming financial hardship to minimize her child support obligations. The court papers revealed that Patricia drove a brand new BMW X5, owned a condominium in an upscale neighborhood, and took regular vacations to luxury destinations. Meanwhile, she had been telling David and the children that she could barely afford basic necessities. Text message conversations between David and Patricia, which I discovered on his iPad that synced with his phone, showed them laughing about my generosity. In one exchange from 6 months ago, Patricia had written, "I can't believe Suzanne paid for Emma's entire spring wardrobe. That's like $1,500 I don't have to spend." David had responded, "She loves spoiling them, makes her feel needed." Another conversation from last Christmas made my blood boil. Patricia had texted, "Did Suzanne really buy Tyler that expensive gaming setup?" David replied, "Yeah, she went all out, spent over $1,000 total." Patricia's response was, "Perfect. Now I can save that money for my Cabo vacation. Your wife is so wonderfully naive." The most infuriating discovery came when I found evidence that David had been secretly sending Patricia money from our joint account, money that I had earned through overtime and weekend marketing projects. Monthly transfers of $300 had been going directly to Patricia's account labeled as child expense reimbursement, when it was actually supplementing her lifestyle while I unknowingly funded her children's actual needs. Bank statements revealed that Patricia's financial priorities were crystal clear. While claiming poverty regarding school supplies and activity fees, she had charged thousands of dollars at luxury retailers, high-end restaurants, and vacation resorts. She was living a lifestyle funded by my financial contributions to her children, while portraying herself as a struggling single mother who could barely contribute to their care. The children's therapy sessions, which I had been paying for at $150 per session twice monthly, were revealed to be complaint sessions about me. Progress notes I found in David's papers showed that Emma and Tyler spent their therapeutic time discussing their adjustment issues with having a stepmother, while their therapist, Dr. Harrison, documented their resistance to accepting me as an authority figure. These sessions weren't helping them process the divorce or build healthy relationships. They were being used to reinforce their rejection of my role in their lives. I discovered that Patricia had been using these therapy sessions as intelligence gathering opportunities. The children would report back to her about conversations and family dynamics they discussed with Dr. Harrison, giving Patricia detailed information about my emotional responses and relationship dynamics with David. She was essentially getting professional insight into how to more effectively manipulate our family situation. Financial records from the children's school revealed another layer of deception. I had been listed as the primary emergency contact and financial responsible party for both Emma and Tyler, yet Patricia attended parent-teacher conferences and school events as their primary guardian. She received all the credit for their academic achievements and social development while contributing none of the financial support that made their success possible. The most painful discovery came when I found evidence that my generous contributions were being used to facilitate Patricia's attempts to undermine my marriage. She had been paying for family activities that excluded me using money that was freed up because I covered the children's basic needs. While I funded their daily expenses, Patricia would take them to expensive concerts, sporting events, and weekend trips, presenting herself as the fun, loving parent, while I was relegated to the role of stern homework enforcer and chore supervisor. I spent hours documenting every transaction, every hidden account, every deceptive financial arrangement that had allowed Patricia and David to exploit my love for his children. The evidence painted a clear picture of financial manipulation that had lasted for 3 years, during which time I had unknowingly funded the very people who were actively working to destroy my peace of mind and marriage. As I organized the evidence into neat folders, I realized that my stepchildren's declaration about only answering to their biological parents wasn't teenage rebellion. It was the natural result of a carefully orchestrated campaign to ensure I remained financially useful but emotionally powerless. The time had come to show them exactly what happened when their free ride came to an abrupt end. 2 weeks after discovering the extent of their deception, I faced the most humiliating moment of my marriage during Emma's junior year academic awards ceremony. This event, which should have been a celebration of her achievements, became the stage for a public declaration of my irrelevance in their lives. I had spent weeks meticulously planning the perfect celebration for Emma's honor roll recognition. The venue was our local country club, where I maintained a premium membership that cost $4,000 annually. I had reserved the elegant banquet room for 80 guests, arranging professional catering that featured Emma's favorite foods and dietary preferences I had carefully noted over the years. The floral arrangements were custom designed in Emma's school colors, and I had hired a professional photographer to capture every moment of her achievement. Emma's outfit alone represented hours of shopping and careful selection. We'd visited 3 different boutiques before finding the perfect navy blue dress that complemented her complexion and made her feel confident. The matching accessories, professional styling appointment, and custom jewelry had cost over $800, but I wanted her to feel absolutely radiant on her special day. I had personally called every family member and friend, coordinating schedules and arranging accommodations for out-of-town relatives. David's parents flew in from Arizona, and my own sister drove up from Portland with her family. I had created personalized invitations, arranged hotel discounts for traveling guests, and even organized transportation for elderly relatives who couldn't drive at night. The evening began beautifully. Emma looked stunning in her carefully chosen attire, and I felt genuinely proud watching her accept recognition for maintaining a 4.2 grade point average while participating in multiple extracurricular activities. I had positioned myself in the front row, beaming with maternal pride as she walked across the stage to receive her academic medals and certificates. When Emma stepped up to the microphone for her acceptance speech, I expected the typical teenage awkwardness mixed with gratitude. Instead, I received a devastating lesson in public humiliation that I will never forget. Emma looked directly over my head, making eye contact with David and Patricia, who sat strategically in the back row. I want to thank my real parents, Mom and Dad, for always supporting me throughout my academic journey. Emma began, her voice clear and deliberate. Their constant encouragement and genuine belief in my abilities have made all the difference in achieving these honors. She paused, scanning the room while deliberately avoiding my gaze, and continued with words that felt like physical blows. Some people think that money can buy love or that expensive gifts create real relationships, but I've learned that authentic family connections are about blood understanding and unconditional acceptance. Real family members know you deeply and love you for who you truly are, not for who they want you to become. The banquet room fell silent. 80 guests, including my own family members, watched as Emma systematically erased my 3 years of emotional and financial investment in her success. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks as whispers began circulating among the guests who understood the subtext of her remarks. Tyler's recognition for his soccer achievements followed immediately after, and he seized the opportunity to reinforce his sister's message. I'm incredibly grateful for my authentic parents who truly understand my passion for sports and support my dreams, he announced. Having parents who know your real interests and encourage your genuine talents makes all the difference. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for always being there when it actually matters. Both children posed for numerous photographs with David and Patricia, creating lasting memories that completely excluded the woman who had funded every aspect of their achievements. Patricia wore a smug expression as she accepted congratulations from guests who praised her for raising such successful children. She graciously accepted compliments about their academic and athletic accomplishments, while I sat forgotten in the front row, surrounded by the elegant celebration I had created for children who viewed me as nothing more than a convenient financial resource. The social media posts that followed were the final insult. Emma's Instagram story featured carefully curated photos with captions that celebrated my real parents who supported me through everything. Every single photograph deliberately excluded me, despite the fact that I had arranged and paid for the professional photography session. Tyler posted similar content on his Snapchat with group photos labeled "Family Celebration with the People Who Matter Most." My sister approached me during the reception with tears in her eyes. "You don't have to tolerate this treatment," she whispered urgently. "This is cruel and completely inappropriate. You've given these kids everything, and they're treating you like you're invisible." David's own parents seemed uncomfortable with their grandchildren's behavior. His mother pulled me aside and apologized quietly. "I don't understand what's gotten into them," she said. "You've been nothing but generous and loving. This public display is completely unacceptable." But the most painful moment came when David himself failed to address or correct his children's behavior. When guests approached him with obvious concern about the way Emma and Tyler had excluded me from their speeches, he simply shrugged and made excuses. "They're just expressing their feelings about the divorce," he said. "It's important for them to honor their relationship with their mother." As the evening concluded and guests began departing, I found myself cleaning up the remnants of a celebration that had become a public announcement of my insignificance. Patricia left early with the children taking leftover cake and flowers from centerpieces I had carefully selected. David helped load gifts into their car while I settled the bill with the catering staff and thanked the photographer whose services I had paid for to document my own humiliation. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling while David slept peacefully beside me, apparently unbothered by the evening's events. The children were staying at Patricia's house for the weekend, celebrating their academic achievements with their real family, while I contemplated the devastating realization that 3 years of love effort and financial sacrifice had earned me nothing but public contempt. I made a decision in those quiet pre-dawn hours. The time for hoping, trying, and accepting disrespect had come to an end. If Emma and Tyler only recognized the authority of their biological parents, then their biological parents could assume full responsibility for supporting the lifestyle they had grown accustomed to enjoying at my expense. David returned from his Chicago business conference on Sunday evening, exhausted from travel and blissfully unaware that his world was about to change forever. I had spent the weekend preparing for the most important conversation of our marriage, organizing evidence and rehearsing the words that would either save our relationship or destroy it completely. I waited until he had showered and settled into his favorite armchair with a glass of wine before I approached him with a manila folder containing printed bank statements, photographed journal entries, and court documents I had discovered during his absence. My hands remained steady as I placed the evidence on the coffee table between us, though my heart was pounding with nervous anticipation. "We need to talk about Emma and Tyler's behavior and your role in enabling their disrespect." I began keeping my voice calm and measured despite the emotional storm brewing inside me. David initially attempted to dismiss my concerns with the same tired explanations he had been using for months. "They're still adjusting to our blended family situation," he said without looking up from his wine. "Teenagers are naturally rebellious, and we need to be patient while they work through their feelings about the divorce." I opened the folder and placed Emma's journal photographs in front of him, pointing to specific entries that detailed their calculated manipulation strategies. "This isn't teenage rebellion, David. This is a coordinated campaign of psychological manipulation orchestrated by your ex-wife and executed by your children." His expression changed as he read Emma's documented plans to exploit my generosity while maintaining emotional distance. The color drained from his face when he saw Patricia's direct quotes about keeping me in my place and maximizing my financial contributions while minimizing my parental authority. "I had no idea they were planning this," he whispered, though his defensive posture suggested otherwise. I placed the financial documents on top of the journal photos, showing him the proof of Patricia's hidden income and our lopsided expense arrangement. "Did you know that your ex-wife makes $120,000 a year, while I've been paying for 90% of your children's needs?" David's jaw tightened as he examined the court papers he thought he had successfully hidden from me. "Patricia's financial situation is complicated," he stammered. "She has other expenses that affect her ability to contribute more, like her brand new BMW and luxury vacations." I asked, showing him screenshots of Patricia's social media posts featuring expensive trips and high-end purchases. "David, she's been laughing at my generosity while you've been secretly sending her money from our joint account." The evidence of his financial deception hit him like a physical blow. He stared at the bank statements showing monthly transfers to Patricia's account, unable to formulate a believable explanation for his betrayal of our financial partnership. "I can explain that," he said weakly. "Sometimes she needs help with unexpected expenses. Unexpected expenses like her Cabo vacation or her designer handbag collection." I challenged, placing more evidence in front of him. "David, you've been taking money I earned through overtime work and sending it to your ex-wife so she can maintain a lifestyle she couldn't afford if she actually supported her own children." The conversation escalated when I confronted him about the therapy sessions that were supposed to help Emma and Tyler adjust to our family situation, but were actually being used to reinforce their rejection of my authority. David had been aware that the children used their sessions to complain about me, while Patricia gathered intelligence about our family dynamics. "You've allowed your ex-wife to weaponize therapy against our marriage," I said, showing him Dr. Harrison's progress notes that documented the children's resistance to accepting me as a parental figure. "These sessions aren't helping them heal. They're teaching them more sophisticated ways to manipulate our family situation." David's defensiveness reached a breaking point when I demanded that he choose between supporting our marriage and enabling continued disrespect from his children and ex-wife. "You're asking me to choose between you and my kids," he said, his voice rising with anger. "I'm asking you to choose between enabling their manipulation and protecting your wife's dignity," I corrected him. "I'm asking you to be a husband who stands up for his marriage instead of taking the path of least resistance." The moment that sealed our fate came when David hesitated too long before responding. His silence spoke volumes about his priorities and his commitment to our partnership. At that exact moment, Emma and Tyler returned from their weekend with Patricia, bursting through the front door with loud voices and obvious excitement from whatever fun activities their mother had arranged. They stopped short when they saw the serious conversation taking place in our living room, but instead of showing any concern or respect for the tension they had walked into, Emma smirked and made the comment that would haunt our marriage forever. "We told you she'd never really be family," Emma said, with casual cruelty, looking directly at me with cold, calculating eyes. David's response to his daughter's deliberate cruelty was the final test of our relationship, and he failed spectacularly. Instead of defending me or addressing Emma's inappropriate behavior, he turned to me and said, "Maybe you should give them some space to process their feelings. This is a lot for them to handle." In that moment, I understood that David would never prioritize my dignity over maintaining peace with Patricia and avoiding conflict with his children. 3 years of hoping he would eventually stand up for our marriage crumbled as I realized he viewed me as the expendable party in every family conflict. Tyler joined his sister's attack, emboldened by their father's failure to correct Emma's behavior. "Yeah, you're being really dramatic about normal family stuff," he added with teenage arrogance. I looked at David one final time, waiting for him to fulfill his role as my husband and defend me against his children's calculated cruelty. When he remained silent, choosing their comfort over my respect, I made the decision that would change all of our lives forever. "You're absolutely right," I said, standing up and gathering my evidence. "I'm not your family, and after tonight, I won't be pretending to be anymore." As I walked toward the stairs, leaving David to explain our marriage crisis to the children who had orchestrated it, I felt a strange sense of relief mixed with profound sadness. The illusion of our blended family had finally been shattered, but at least I would no longer be living in denial about my true place in their carefully constructed hierarchy. Monday morning arrived with crisp autumn air and crystal clear purpose. After David left for work and the children departed for school, I implemented a strategic response that would demonstrate exactly what happened when people who only answered to their biological parents suddenly had to rely solely on those parents for everything they had grown accustomed to receiving. My first call was to Mrs. Henderson Emma's private tutor, who had been helping her maintain her honor roll status for the past 2 years. "I'm calling to inform you that today will be Emma's final session," I said professionally. "Payment authorization is being revoked effective immediately, and future tutoring arrangements will need to be made through her father." Mrs. Henderson sounded surprised. "Is Emma having any academic difficulties? Her progress has been excellent, and we're right in the middle of preparing for her SAT prep. Emma's academic support will now be handled by her biological parents," I explained calmly. "Please send your final invoice to David's email address, which I'll provide and discontinue any future scheduling." Next, I contacted Jim Patterson, Tyler's driving instructor, who'd been teaching him parallel parking and highway driving in preparation for his license test. "Tyler's driving lessons are concluded as of today," I informed him. "His father will need to arrange alternative instruction if Tyler wishes to continue learning." The country club membership required a personal visit to handle properly. I drove to the elegant facility where I had maintained a premium family membership for 3 years, hosting countless celebrations and family gatherings. The membership coordinator, Mrs. Williams, greeted me warmly. "I need to modify my membership from family status to individual," I explained, settling into the leather chair across from her mahogany desk. "Of course, Mrs. Patterson. Will this affect your upcoming holiday party reservation?" she asked, referencing the Christmas celebration I had planned for December. "Please cancel all upcoming reservations and events," I said. "The membership modification should remove guest privileges for David Patterson, Emma Patterson, and Tyler Patterson effective immediately." The bank visit required more delicate handling due to the joint accounts David and I had maintained throughout our marriage. I met with our personal banker, Mr. Rodriguez, who had handled our financial planning since we combined households. "I need to restructure our account arrangements," I explained, providing him with legal documentation I had prepared over the weekend. "I'm removing my authorization for any expenses related to Emma and Tyler Patterson, and I want to establish separate accounts for my personal finances." Mr. Rodriguez reviewed the paperwork carefully. "This will affect several automatic payments you've been covering for the children's activities and services. Are you certain you want to discontinue these arrangements?" "Absolutely certain," I confirmed. "Their biological parents can establish their own payment methods for any services they wish to continue." The most satisfying call was to Verizon, where I had maintained an expensive family plan that provided unlimited data and premium features for Emma and Tyler's smartphones. "I need to remove 2 lines from my family plan and transfer them to a separate account," I told the customer service representative. "Certainly. The 2 lines will lose access to the premium features and unlimited data you've been providing. Would you like me to set up basic plans for them under a different account holder?" "That will be the responsibility of their account holder, David Patterson," I said, providing his information. "Please downgrade them to the most basic service level available." Summer camp cancellations required multiple phone calls to prestigious programs where I had enrolled both children for the upcoming season. Emma's photography workshop at the Art Institute, Tyler's advanced soccer camp in Colorado, and their joint wilderness adventure program in Montana all required cancellation with forfeiture of my substantial deposits. The most complex task was addressing the house itself, a property I had purchased independently before marriage, and which David had moved into after our wedding. I contacted my attorney, Sarah Mitchell, who had handled my real estate transactions and could provide legal guidance about protecting my property rights. "Based on your prenuptial agreement and property ownership documents, you have the legal right to modify access to your home," she confirmed. "However, I recommend providing proper notice to avoid any potential complications." The locksmith arrived at 2 o'clock that afternoon while I was home alone. Frank Morrison had been recommended by Sarah as someone who could provide high-security locks and maintain discretion about residential changes. As he worked on installing new deadbolts and security features, I felt a sense of control returning to my life for the first time in months. "These are commercial-grade locks," Frank explained as he demonstrated the new key system. "Much more secure than standard residential hardware. You'll have complete control over who has access to your property." I spent the afternoon systematically removing David's belongings from our shared spaces and organizing them in neat piles in the guest bedroom. His clothes, personal items, electronic devices, and sentimental objects were carefully packed in labeled boxes that reflected 3 years of shared living space. The utility companies required similar modifications. I contacted the electric company, natural gas provider, water department, and internet service to remove David's name from all accounts and establish myself as the sole account holder. The property insurance company also needed notification about changes to the policy coverage. When David arrived home that evening with groceries he had picked up for dinner, his key no longer worked in the front door lock. I watched through the window as he tried multiple times before realizing something had changed. His confusion turned to shock as he saw me organizing his belongings into neat stacks near the entryway. I opened the door but maintained the security chain, handing him an official notice through the gap. This is 30-day legal notice that you'll need written permission before entering my property, I said calmly. Your belongings are packed and ready for pickup. David's face went through multiple expressions as he processed the swift and thorough nature of my response to our failed confrontation. Suzanne, we can work this out, he said desperately. You don't need to do this. Your children made it clear that I have no authority in your family, I replied evenly. I'm simply respecting their wishes by removing myself from any position where I might accidentally overstep my boundaries. The children's reactions when they arrived home from school were equally shocking to them. Emma discovered her phone service had been reduced to basic calling and texting when her social media app stopped working. Tyler found that his gaming setup no longer had the premium internet speed required for online competitions. What happened to our phones? Emma demanded, as if I owed her an explanation. Your biological parents are now responsible for your service plans, I informed her. You'll need to discuss any upgrades or features with them. Tyler's meltdown about his gaming limitations was immediate and dramatic. This isn't fair, he shouted. You can't just take away stuff we need. I'm not taking anything away, I corrected him. I'm simply discontinuing services that I was providing voluntarily. Your actual parents can provide whatever level of service they deem appropriate. As I settled into my transformed home that evening with new locks ensuring my privacy and security, I felt a profound sense of relief. For 3 years, I had been trying to earn love and respect that was never available for purchase. The time had come to see how much the people who had taken my generosity for granted actually valued what I had been providing. The consequences of my strategic withdrawal began manifesting within 48 hours, revealing the true extent of everyone's dependence on my financial support and emotional labor. The comfortable lifestyle that Emma and Tyler had grown accustomed to experiencing started crumbling as their biological parents scrambled to replace resources they had never bothered to track or appreciate. Emma's first crisis came Tuesday morning when she discovered that her phone's data plan had been reduced to such a basic level that she couldn't access Instagram, Snapchat, or TikTok. Her social media presence, which had been carefully curated around her seemingly privileged lifestyle, suddenly became impossible to maintain. She called David at work in tears, demanding that he fix the problem immediately. "Dad, I can't even post pictures or watch videos anymore," she sobbed into the phone. "My friends are asking why my stuff isn't working properly. This is humiliating." David's first instinct was to call me, expecting that he could persuade me to restore her premium service. When I declined to take his call, he was forced to contact Verizon directly and discovered that upgrading Emma and Tyler's phones to their previous service level would cost him over $200 monthly, money he had never budgeted for because I had been handling that expense invisibly. Tyler's gaming crisis erupted Wednesday evening when he attempted to join his online team for a tournament competition and discovered that our home's internet service had been downgraded to basic residential speed. His premium gaming setup, which required high-speed connections for competitive play, became essentially useless for the activities he was passionate about. "The lag is terrible and I keep getting disconnected," he complained to David. "Coach says if I can't participate in online practice sessions, I might lose my spot on the travel team." David contacted our internet provider and learned that upgrading to the gaming level service Tyler required would cost an additional $150 monthly, another expense that had been seamlessly covered by my premium plan without his knowledge or appreciation. Patricia's panic became evident Thursday morning when David called her, demanding increased financial contribution for expenses he was suddenly responsible for covering. Their phone conversation, which I inadvertently overheard when David called from our backyard, revealed the depth of their financial dependence on my generosity. "You need to start contributing more to their expenses," David said desperately. "Suzanne cut off everything, and I can't afford to maintain their current lifestyle on my salary alone." Patricia's response was immediate and defensive. "I already pay child support according to our court agreement. If you can't handle basic parenting costs, maybe we need to revisit our custody arrangement. Basic costs. David's voice rose with frustration. Emma's tutoring is $800 monthly. Tyler's soccer program costs $600. Their phone plans, internet service, and car insurance add up to over $700. These aren't basic costs, Patricia. Those are luxury services that you and your wife chose to provide, Patricia snapped back. I never agreed to private tutoring or premium phone plans. If you want to spoil them with expensive extras, that's your financial responsibility. The conversation revealed that Patricia had been completely unaware of the scope of expenses I had been covering. She had assumed that David's modest child support payments were sufficient because she never saw any additional bills or financial strain in their lifestyle. David's mother called me Friday afternoon, something she had never done during our 3-year marriage. Her voice was strained with concern and embarrassment about her son's situation. Suzanne, I'm calling to apologize for my grandchildren's behavior and to ask if there's any way to work things out, she said hesitantly. David told me about the financial arrangements and I had no idea you were supporting them so completely. She went on to explain that David had been borrowing money from his parents for months to maintain appearances and match my generosity early in our relationship. He's been struggling financially since the divorce, but he was too proud to admit it. We've been lending him money for special occasions and emergencies, thinking it was temporary. The revelation that David's parents had been subsidizing his lifestyle explained why he had never advocated for increased child support from Patricia or established realistic financial boundaries. He'd been borrowing from multiple sources to avoid confronting the reality of his financial limitations. Bank statements that arrived Saturday morning showed David's true financial position without my support. His credit card debt had ballooned to over $15,000 from attempts to match my gift giving and maintain the children's expectations. Late payment fees and interest charges were accumulating rapidly, and his credit score had been steadily declining. Emma's academic performance began suffering immediately without her private tutoring support. Mrs. Henderson had been providing crucial help with advanced placement courses that Emma couldn't manage independently. Her first quiz grade after losing tutoring support dropped from an A to AC, minus threatening her honor roll status and college preparation timeline. Tyler's transportation became a crisis when he lost access to driving lessons and discovered that David's work schedule made it impossible to provide the practice time he needed to pass his license test. His 16th birthday was approaching, but without proper driving instruction, he would be unable to achieve the independence he had been anticipating. The most revealing moment came when Patricia arrived at David's temporary apartment Sunday morning to discuss custody modifications. I observed their interaction from my kitchen window as she discovered the cramped living space David could afford without my housing contribution. You can't seriously expect the children to stay here long-term, Patricia said incredulously, examining the small 2-bedroom apartment David had rented hastily after I changed the locks. This is temporary until I figure out a better arrangement, David replied defensively. Well, figure it out quickly, because I'm not equipped to handle full-time custody if you can't provide appropriate housing, Patricia warned. My apartment isn't set up for teenagers, and I have my own life to consider. Emma and Tyler, who had been staying with their mother since the previous Tuesday, began complaining about Patricia's strict rules and limited space compared to the comfortable home I had provided. Emma texted David constantly about Patricia's refusal to buy her a homecoming dress that cost more than $200. Tyler missed his first soccer practice when Patricia couldn't drive him across town to his team facility, something I had been doing twice weekly without complaint. Patricia's work schedule as a pharmaceutical sales representative required extensive travel, making her an unreliable source of daily transportation and supervision. The children's first real taste of natural consequences came when Emma had to accept a part-time job at a local restaurant to earn money for her homecoming dress and dance expenses. For the first time in her life, she was experiencing the connection between work and reward that most teenagers understand instinctively. As I watched their carefully constructed lifestyle collapse from my peaceful home, I felt a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. The people who had dismissed my contributions as worthless were discovering exactly how valuable my support had been. But the education was coming at the cost of relationships that might have been salvageable with honesty and respect. 6 months after implementing my strategic withdrawal from their lives, I had built a new existence centered on self-respect, authentic relationships, and personal growth that I never could have imagined while trapped in the cycle of unappreciated giving. The transformation in my life was so complete that when David eventually came crawling back with desperate apologies, I barely recognized the woman I had been who would have welcomed him with relief and gratitude. My career had flourished once I redirected the energy I had been wasting on ungrateful stepchildren toward professional development and networking opportunities. The promotion to regional marketing director came with a salary increase of $25,000 annually and the respect of colleagues who recognized my strategic thinking and leadership capabilities. Without the constant emotional drain of family conflict and manipulation, my creativity and productivity reached new heights. The house that had once felt empty and tense became a sanctuary filled with friends who appreciated my hospitality and generosity. Sarah, my attorney, became a close friend who introduced me to her book club, where I discovered a community of intelligent, accomplished women who valued deep conversations and authentic connections. My sister visited more frequently, bringing her children for weekend stays, where they experienced the stable, loving environment I had tried to create for Emma and Tyler. Dr. Patricia Martinez, the therapist I began seeing to process the emotional trauma of my marriage, helped me understand the patterns of codependency and people-pleasing that had made me vulnerable to manipulation. "You were trying to earn love that wasn't available for purchase," she explained during one of our sessions. "Real love doesn't require you to prove your worth through financial contributions." The most unexpected development was meeting Marcus Thompson, a successful attorney who specialized in family law and understood the complexities of blended family dynamics from his professional experience. Unlike David, who had treated my generosity as an entitlement, Marcus appreciated my giving nature without exploiting it. Our relationship developed slowly and naturally, built on mutual respect and genuine compatibility. Marcus had his own home-stable finances and well-adjusted teenage daughter from his previous marriage, who treated me with courtesy and warmth from our first meeting. "My dad talks about you a lot," 16-year-old Jessica told me during one of our early dinners together. "He says you're the kindest person he's ever met, and I can see why he feels that way." The contrast between Jessica's natural acceptance and Emma and Tyler's calculated rejection was striking. Jessica expressed genuine interest in my work, asked thoughtful questions about my interests, and seemed to enjoy our conversations without any underlying agenda or manipulation. She'd been raised to value character over material possessions and understood that respect was earned through behavior, not inherited through biology. David's desperate return began with flowers delivered to my office every Friday for 3 weeks, followed by handwritten letters that arrived daily in my mailbox. His messages chronicled the complete collapse of his financial stability and family relationships after losing my support system. "I've made the biggest mistake of my life," he wrote in one particularly lengthy letter. "I took your love and generosity for granted, and I chose the path of least resistance instead of protecting our marriage. Patricia has become impossible to deal with now that she's actually responsible for contributing to the children's support. The kids are struggling academically and emotionally without the stability you provided." The letters revealed that Patricia's true character had emerged once she was forced to assume real parenting responsibilities and financial obligations. She complained constantly about the additional expenses and time commitments required to maintain Emma and Tyler's activities and academic progress. Her resentment toward David grew as she realized how much easier her life had been when I was handling the majority of their children's needs. Emma's academic performance had declined significantly without professional tutoring support. Her grade point average dropped from 4.2 to 3.1, jeopardizing her college scholarship opportunities and advanced placement course completion. The private colleges she had been considering were no longer realistic options without the academic excellence she had maintained with my financial support. Tyler lost his position on the travel soccer team when his family couldn't maintain consistent attendance at practices and games due to transportation issues and conflicting schedules between David and Patricia. His dreams of earning a sports scholarship for college became increasingly unlikely without the structured support system I had provided. The most telling moment came when Emma wrote me a lengthy letter that arrived on a Tuesday morning in March. Her handwriting was careful and deliberate, suggesting she had drafted the letter multiple times before finding the courage to send it. Dear Suzanne, the letter began, I know I have no right to ask for your help or forgiveness after the way I treated you, but I wanted you to know that I finally understand what I lost when I decided you weren't my real family. You were the most stable, supportive adult in my life, and I threw that away because I was too immature to appreciate what you were giving me. She continued, College application season has been really hard without your guidance. You always knew the right questions to ask and helped me think through my goals clearly. Dad tries to help, but he doesn't understand the process like you did. Mom gets frustrated when I need help because she says figuring things out is part of growing up. The letter concluded with a request that broke my heart while reinforcing my decision. Would it be possible for us to meet for coffee sometime? I would really like to apologize in person and maybe ask for some advice about my future. I miss our Saturday morning talks and the way you always listen to my problems without judging me. Tyler's outreach was more direct and emotional. He called my office one afternoon, somehow obtaining my direct number, and left a voicemail message that lasted nearly 5 minutes. Suzanne, it's Tyler. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I wanted to tell you that I miss you a lot. I miss our Saturday morning pancake breakfasts and the way you always asked about my games and actually listened to my answers. Dad tries, but he's always stressed about money now, and Mom gets annoyed when I talk too much about soccer. His voice cracked with emotion as he continued. I've been thinking about what I said to you that night, and I know it was really mean and wrong. You were always nice to me, and you never made me feel like I was bothering you. I'm sorry for being such a jerk, and I hope maybe someday you can forgive me. David's final attempt at reconciliation came in the form of couples therapy sessions that he scheduled and paid for independently. He appeared at my office one Friday afternoon with Dr. Rebecca Santos, a marriage counselor who specialized in blended family dynamics and relationship repair. Suzanne, I know this is unexpected, but I was hoping you might consider joining David for a few sessions to discuss your marriage. Dr. Santos explained professionally. He's been working with me individually for several months, and he's made significant progress in understanding the patterns that contributed to your relationship difficulties. The therapy sessions revealed the extent of David's financial desperation and emotional growth during our separation. He had been forced to declare bankruptcy when credit card debts and borrowing from his parents became unmanageable. His relationship with Patricia had deteriorated into constant conflict about money and parenting responsibilities. I realize now that I was using you as a buffer between myself and the reality of my financial limitations, David admitted during our third session. I let Patricia and the kids manipulate our family dynamic because it was easier than establishing healthy boundaries and realistic expectations. Dr. Santos helped facilitate honest conversations about the betrayal and disrespect I had experienced, requiring David to acknowledge the specific ways he had failed to protect our marriage. The sessions were emotionally intense, but ultimately clarifying about the fundamental incompatibility between David's conflict avoidance and my need for partnership and mutual respect. The final session confirmed what I had already realized through months of personal growth and healthy relationships. I appreciate your willingness to acknowledge your mistakes, I told David honestly, but I've learned the difference between unconditional love and unconditional tolerance. I hope you find happiness and become the father and partner that Emma and Tyler deserve, but that person isn't going to be with me. Marcus was waiting in the parking lot when I emerged from that final therapy session, offering silent support without pressuring me to discuss details I wasn't ready to share. His presence reminded me of what healthy love looked like: patient, respectful, and secure enough to allow space for processing difficult emotions. Thanksgiving arrived with golden autumn light streaming through the windows of my beautifully decorated home, where I hosted 12 friends who had become my chosen family over the past year. The dining room table was set with my grandmother's china and fresh flowers from my garden, creating an atmosphere of gratitude and genuine connection. Sarah raised a toast during dinner to Suzanne, who taught us all that being alone is infinitely better than being unappreciated, and that real family is built on love and respect, not biology or obligation. Marcus squeezed my hand under the table as our friends shared stories of gratitude and growth from the past year. Jessica helped me serve dessert while chatting about her plans for college applications, seeking my advice because she valued my perspective, not because she needed my financial support. As I looked around the table at faces filled with genuine affection and appreciation, I reflected on the profound lesson this experience had taught me. For years, I had confused generosity with love and financial support with family connection. I had allowed people to exploit my giving nature because I believed that proving my worth through sacrifice would eventually earn me the respect and appreciation I craved. The children who had declared they only answered to their biological parents learned that independence comes with responsibility and that taking people for granted has natural consequences. David discovered that avoiding conflict doesn't preserve relationships. It only delays their inevitable collapse. Patricia realized that exploiting someone else's generosity eventually requires assuming the responsibilities you've been avoiding. Most importantly, I learned that my worth wasn't determined by how much I could provide for others, but by the character and strength I demonstrated when tested by adversity. Real love doesn't require proof through sacrifice, and authentic family connections are built on mutual respect, not financial dependency. The woman who had desperately tried to buy her way into a family that would never accept her had become someone who attracted genuine love through her authenticity and self-respect. The stepchildren who thought they could dismiss me while enjoying my support learned that consequences teach lessons that words cannot. The husband who chose comfort over courage discovered that avoiding difficult conversations ultimately destroys what you're trying to protect. As we cleared the dishes that evening, surrounded by laughter and meaningful conversation, I realized that the most valuable gift those difficult experiences had given me was the wisdom to recognize genuine appreciation when I found it. My new life was filled with people who celebrated my kindness without exploiting it, who valued my generosity without demanding it, and who loved me for who I was not, for what I could provide. Have you ever found yourself giving more than you were receiving in a relationship, whether with family, friends, or partners? Sometimes, the most loving thing we can do is establish boundaries that protect our dignity, while teaching others about respect and appreciation. I'd love to hear your thoughts about finding the balance between generosity and self-respect in the comments below. Thank you for taking this journey with me and for listening to my story with such attention and care. I hope that sharing these experiences might help someone else recognize their worth and find the courage to demand the respect they deserve. Please like this video if it resonated with you, subscribe for more stories about overcoming family challenges, and share this with anyone who might need to hear that their kindness should be valued, not taken for granted. Remember that real love never requires you to diminish yourself to prove your worth, and that healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, understanding, and appreciation. Wishing you all the strength to know your value and the wisdom to surround yourself with people who celebrate the light you bring to their lives.